Hey everyone! Greetings here from Brno, here in the Czech Republic. Kind of a rainy, washed out Saturday we've got, but I've got some delicious Moravian wine I'm so happy to share with you all today. But before I get into the wines, my real intention of this video is to debunk a few myths about rosé. So for just over a decade, I've worked in the wine industry. I have had to reassure many consumers that even though it's rosé and it's pink, it does not mean that it is sweet. So today's video is in dedication to dry, delicious rosé, particularly from South Moravia. So to talk a little bit about rosé wine production. Rosé wine is essentially wine made from black grapes that sees a very short pre-fermentation maceration. So what that means is that the grapes are trucked into the winery from the vineyards, and prior to the fermentation process, which converts the sugar to alcohol, the juice actually is left to macerate with the skins in a tank for an extended period of time. Now, the longer the maceration, the deeper the color of the wine. So rosé wines can range in their maceration times anywhere from 1 hour all the way to 24 hours, even 2 to 3 days. And the intention and style of the wine is shaped by the producer, by the vintage, and of course by the consistency that the winery is looking for, aiming for. So if you take it and think about it in terms of tea, for example, if you have a tea bag that you steep in hot water for 10 or 15 seconds, it's going to be quite pale, almost translucent. But if you continue to steep that tea bag in hot water for 3 or 4 minutes, the color will become quite concentrated. So again, having that correlation between maceration time and the color achieved is very similar to rosé. And of course, there are some sweeter rosés out there in this world, absolutely, but not all rosés are sweet. And unfortunately, the sweet rosé myth has kind of plagued me for the past 10 years, but I'm so happy to talk about dry rosé because they're delicious, and in the summer, there's really no other perfect alternative than a delicious chilled dry rosé. And of course, here in South Moravia, it's always best to drink local. So I wanted to show 2 rosés, very different colors and contrasting styles. But in fact, both of these wines are from the same village. They are both from Vrbice, just from different producers, both young producers who really have a lot of passion and a lot of care that they put into their wines. So thrilled to talk about their wines today with you here on video. So the first wine I'm going to be talking about today is from Vinarství Barák. So this is Vinarství Barák's Blanc de Blanc-Frankish, so white of Blaufränkisch. This is the 2017 from their intensive line. Intensive for this line basically means it's their entry-level wine. So the wines have a screw cap, which I really like. And in addition, the wines see stainless steel maturation, so there's no oak influence on these wines. This wine is dry, again from the village of Vrbice, from the Velké Pavlovice subregion of South Moravia. So lead winemaker here is František Makowski, and he and his wife Lenka farm quite a bit of land down in Vrbice. In fact, they actually sell the majority of their grapes to local producers and keep some of the grapes for themselves to vinify for themselves. What I really love about Barák Winery is that Lenka and František do not have these fancy viticultural degrees. They're actually civil engineers who were inspired to start a winery on their honeymoon in Egypt. So this story is just so romantic. And this was, 10 years ago that they started this intention. They started a family, and they also started Barák Winery. So Barák Winery, as I mentioned, in Vrbice, in Velké Pavlovice. I had the great pleasure of interviewing Lenka and František for my Moravia Makes Wine chats during the quarantine, and I will link here on my Facebook to the chat. But I really appreciate them taking the time to talk with me and providing me these samples to taste. And they make such a wide range of wines, different styles with different grapes, and excited to talk about them here on video today. So talking about Blaufränkisch, which is the grape variety, it's really indigenous to this part of the world. So Austria, Hungary, Czech Republic, which was once Czechoslovakia. This grape's predominantly grown here. It goes by many different names. So in Austria, it's known as Blaufränkisch, which they label it here as. In the Czech Republic, it often goes by the name Frankovka. And in Hungary, it goes by Kikfrankos. Back in the US, it's actually grown too and goes by the name Lemberger. And the grape's been cultivated for about 200 years throughout the region, and it grows very well in this particular part of South Moravia in Velké Pavlovice that gets a little bit more sunshine, a little bit more heat. And Blaufränkisch is a grape that needs it. It needs that sunshine and heat. It's a late ripening grape variety, so definitely needs a little bit longer hang time on the vine. Going into their Blaufränkisch Rosé today, the wine has a pale pink color, almost like a golden orange hue to it. But the wine is clean, free of any sediments, and no cloudiness in the wine. And the nose shows kind of this contrasting element between like a pink grapefruit and orange mandarin citrus note and red apple and raspberry. Slight hints of like red plum as well. A little bit of a red currant just underlying. But just bright acidity, high acidity, really zippy and zesty and refreshing. Again, no oak influence on this wine. It's very clean but pronounced fruit flavors, citrus and red apple and red fruited flavors on the palate as well. About a medium finish, medium concentration. But I could just imagine this wine with like a simple tossed green salad, little goat cheese, crostinis, little cranberry jam to match with the tartness of the wine. But really, I'm pleasantly surprised, actually. This is a 2017 vintage, and typically rosés do not have the longest aging potential. I'm generalizing, but typically they do not. And I'm very surprised at the bright acidity on this wine. It's really maintained its acidity and red fruited flavors and hasn't oxidized a bit. So I'm very impressed with this Blanc de Blaufränkisch 2017 vintage, showing amazing concentration and red fruit flavors and lovely acidity. I could just picture this on a picnic this summer with some of my girlfriends. So delicious wine, Lenka and František. Thank you for sharing your wines with me. And again, I really encourage you to rewatch maybe my Facebook Live interview with František and Lenka to learn more about Vrbice Barák. And so the next wine I'm going to be talking about, it has a marked contrast in color. So this is the Blanc de Blaufränkisch from Barák, and this is André Rosé from Symphony. So again, these two wineries are located maybe 10 minutes from each other by car, maybe even less, both located in the village of Vrbice. So this is Symphony, Symphony's André Rosé 2018. Winemaker here is Jakub Sporowski, and you can actually see his fingerprints here on the bottle. And he does that with many of his wines to show his imprint on all of these wines. So to talk a little bit about Symphony, they run quite an operation down there in Vrbice. So in addition to the 50 hectares of vines that they cultivate, which is quite a bit in South Moravia, I might add, they actually have a whole farming operation too, where they have 450 hectares of land, and they cultivate cauliflower and carrots and pumpkins and potatoes. And so in addition to farming a huge swath of land in South Moravia, they actually cultivate vines as well. and are actually currently in the transition over to biodynamic viticulture, which is quite impressive down in Vrbice. Jakob decided to start Symphony Winery with the intention of making natural wine that's reflective of the terroir, that's reflective of the grapes, and that are reflective of his personality. He's really dynamic and really energetic, and he and his wife Carla have 2 small kids. They have the winery, they have the cellar, and they have the whole farming operation. So I have so much respect for these producers that are going above and beyond down in South Moravia. Symphony Winery is interesting because it takes its name from Jakob's parents. His mother, Sylvia, and his father, František, who also goes by the name Fanny, decided to make a combination of those names. So Sylvia and Fanny became Symphony. And Jakob decided to name Symphony because he has so much respect for family, and I really appreciate that and admire that aspect to his style of winemaking, and I certainly find that that's reflective in the style and elegance of his wines. So with the André Rosé, slightly different production method than the Blanc de Blaufränkisch or even other rosés that I've tasted before. So André is a grape that's indigenous to the Czech Republic. It was propagated here in 1961. It was engineered here. It's a crossing of Blaufränkisch and Saint Laurent. And since then, it's really taken hold of the region. And I think by making a rosé from André, I think you're getting amazing qualities from the dark black fruited qualities of the grape, mild acidity, and a great longevity in the wine as well. Now, with the André Rosé, of course, this dark color, hence a long maceration period on the skins, as opposed to Baroques that has definitely a shorter maceration time on the skins. In addition, what Jakob decided to do with this André Rosé was to mature it in acacia oak barrel for 7 or 8 months on the lees. And what that does is it incorporates a slight oxygen ingress into the wine, as well as incorporating the lees into the wine. What that does, it creates a much more complex, concentrated, structured style of rosé that can certainly be aged in bottle for, I would say, 2 or 3 more years without a doubt. But going into this wine is a gorgeous color. The wine has a ruby color, slight magenta, kind of fuchsia note to it as well. On the nose, just watermelon and black plums and blackberry, black currant. There's even hints of red fruit, but definitely a little bit more of that black fruited character certainly coming through. There's a slight yogurt note to it too from the lees maturation. So kind of like a strawberry, blackberry yogurt. But a real creamy, rounded, concentrated nose. Showing a bit more structure on the palate, a little bit more tannin too, just real slight fine tannins. Less acidity, I'd say medium acidity. It's certainly not as bright as the Blanc de Blaufränkisch, but because of that lees maturation, it's definitely a little bit more creamy and rounded and more full-bodied too. But really intense, pronounced flavors. And for a natural wine, it's actually not showing any kind of mushroom or funky notes. It's really clean fruit with that nice tannin structure on there, which for me, it leads more to gastronomy. It leads more to something off the grill, like pork ribs off the grill or something with a barbecue sauce on it. I think would be delicious. I can even imagine this with a really mild kind of pad thai, something that has some soy sauce with it to match with those watermelon, blackberry, blackcurrant fruit notes on the palate. But incredible to have 2 rosés, both dry, but showing such marked contrasts in color and styles, but both from the same wine growing village in Vrbice, both from young winemakers who have so much passion and so much heart for their wines and for the grapes on the vine, and are experimenting and innovative. And I really admire what they're doing down in South Moravia. I can't get enough of the wines down here. And I really encourage you to seek out Vrbice Barak and Vrbice Sifani. And if you need recommendations or kind of a contact hookup, reach out to me. I'm so happy to make the introductions, and wonderful winemakers, and eager to share their story with me and with all these wine lovers out there in the world. So hats off to Barak and Sifani for making delicious rosé, perfect for summer and so versatile and such contrasting flavors and techniques. So cheers to rosé in this rainy summer day. And I hope everyone can get a hold of these great bottles sometime this summer. So ahoy from Brno. Cheers. Ahoy.